What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and this year has been a great year for gaming mostly. But I have to admit that there have been blunders on all sides of the gaming marketplace. Of course, Starfield is the big Xbox release that has gotten itself back in the news. But I also have many bones to pick with PlayStation's first-party games as well. So in this video, I want to talk about the recent Starfield drama surrounding the game, as well as how PlayStation's inability to pull their own head out of their own ass. I'm swinging at everyone. I truly don't care at this point. But to begin, let's look at some very recent articles from a few places, starting with thegamer.com with theirs titled, Starfield Steam Reviews Drop to Mostly Negative. This also gets backed up with another point stating only 37% of players on Steam find Starfield to be a positive experience. Which, mind you, that's still a large amount of people. Recently, the game crossed well over 10 million players, and that's nothing to sneeze at. I think Starfield, for what it's worth, has been a win for Xbox players, mostly in the short term for now anyway. But I'm positive, given a year or two, the game will likely get its No Man's Sky-esque redemption arc. And then it will become something truly special, even though I'm sick and tired of games releasing in weaker and unfinished states. And mind you, this is not unique to Starfield. This is an industry-wide cancer that I loathe with every fiber of my being. I find myself more often than not seeking out games that aren't 100 hours long anymore on purpose. I've sunk around 30 hours into Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora this month, and honestly, I'm struggling to even keep playing it. Its world is stupid huge, and there's so much to do and find, but a lot of it is the same thing over and over like most games these days. Whether it's Starfield, Avatar, hell even Spider-Man 2, they've all disappointed gamers this year in myriads of ways. Spider-Man 2 also, like Starfield, won absolutely nothing at the Game Awards, and I'm not mad about that one bit. I found games like Spider-Man 2 to be lesser in almost every way when compared to the original game. Its story was weak, its characters felt assassinated by identity politics. And outside of some standout moments that are over far too quickly, I was ultimately left disappointed by Sony's big fall release. And then there's the problem that too many games these days feel too safe, which I think we can all agree that Starfield, Spider-Man, Avatar, and more, they all fall into the same category. I mean, it was recently reported that Spider-Man 2 cost Sony around $300 million to make. But this number just left so many players confused as to where that money went exactly. Outside of Peter's symbiotic powers or the new mechanic of gliding, the game basically just added another island of Manhattan, which is nice, sure, but the game doesn't really let you interact with the game world in any meaningful way. It's mostly just window dressing. Then you have Starfield, which touts space exploration, but generally most people who play it will just fast travel in these small cutscenes to these procedurally generated planets. And Avatar is just stupidly big, and you could probably fit 50 Spider-Man 2's New Yorks into Ubisoft's Pandora. But that doesn't make the game good either. We're living in a time where so many games these days are too safe, big, and pointless. And like I said, most of my favorite games this year were smaller, more focused experiences. I think Liza P, for example, shits all over everything I mentioned so far in this video. I thought Liza P was amazing. It had stellar combat, a cool setting and theme, great music, and amazing customization and replay value. And that's another problem with not only Starfield or Spider-Man, but pretty much every AAA game these days. None of them really give you an incentive to replay them because they're far too big. Sure, Starfield resets at the end without going into spoilers, and then you can make new choices, but when these games are this big, do you even want to do that? Then of course there was Starfield's design director, whose name is, and I'll butcher this, Emil Pagliarulo, who flat out states that fans don't know what they're talking about when it comes to talking about video games, but I disagree. I don't think you need to know every single intricate detail in order to have an opinion on something. I believe if you support and pay the amount required to experience something, you're absolutely entitled to your own opinion. If you go to a restaurant and you pay what's required and the food sucks, you're allowed to say, hey, this food sucks and isn't worth what I paid. If the chef suddenly bursts out of the kitchen to yell in your face and tells you you're wrong, it wouldn't do anything but ensure you or any customer in that building would ever want to support that restaurant again. And I feel these game developers are in a similar boat. Sure, games are complicated. Yes, they take a long time to make. But it's like any other product that you buy. It's not the consumer's job to know everything that goes into making the thing they buy. And it doesn't invalidate their opinion on things either. I'm sure Spider-Man 2 was a mammoth task to make. I'm sure it was lots of hours of work to make Venom's skin look as cool as it does. But none of that matters when its story sucks. It ruins Peter's character arc and makes Mary Jane look like the kid from Mask. I don't know the ins and outs of what went into Spider-Man 2's creation, but I did pay $90 Canadian for it and I played the whole game to completion. And I don't think it was a very good game, all things considered. It doesn't invalidate my opinion any more than the next guy either. We're all entitled to our own thoughts. Starfield is in that same camp, and when your design director lashes out like this, all that'll do is expose the tensions and problems of the product at hand even more. Sure, Starfield took years to make, but this is video games. If your game doesn't reach the quality bar players expect, the rest falls to the wayside. Starfield's design director then decided to double down on his take on Twitter, so let's read what he had to say, shall we? Emil said, and I quote, "Funny how disconnected some players are from the realities of game development, and yet they speak with complete authority. I mean, I can guess what it takes to make a Hostess Twinkie, but I don't work in the factory, so what the hell do I really know? Not a lot. Part of me really gets it. When you're a consumer and spend money on things, that gives you the right to complain about those things. I spend a lot of money on games every year, and sometimes it takes a lot of me to not scream into the internet's collective consciousness. I don't complain about games on social media for two main reasons. I know how hard it is to make games and have too much respect for my fellow devs. I also work for a game studio, and it would be uncool and unprofessional for me to do so, but sometimes I want to. But throughout that time, I actually had no inkling what game development was actually like. How hard the designers, programmers, artists, producers, and everyone else worked. The struggle to bring a vision to life with constantly shifting resources, the stress. This isn't me complaining about my job. I've experienced all these things and will again. It's the nature of AAA game development. But I also have a great position and am still gainfully employed after 21 plus years. A blessing considering the thousands of layoffs this year. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind because the internet, but given my position, I can't not share the truth. And that truth is, nobody sets out to make a bad game, and most game devs are incredibly talented even if the game they release isn't up to par. Chances are, unless you've made a game yourself, you don't know who made certain decisions. Who did specific work, how many people were actually available to do that work, any time challenges faced, or how often you had to overcome technology itself. This one is huge. So yes, love games, buy them, play them, and complain to your heart's content. It's sort of the nature of the developer-player transactional relationship. But just know that the game you're playing is in some ways a freaking miracle in and of itself. Normal people have come together to work for years for one goal: to bring you fun and happiness, so if it helps to remember that and them," end quote. This is all dandy, and Emil essentially tries to reach a common ground in the end to basically make it seem like players need to be more understanding. But I think that falls flat for a few reasons. The truth is that modern gaming is full of misfires, unfinished games, and loads of nonsense, whether it's microtransactions or activist writers injecting politics, which never makes the product better. Just look at Spider-Man or games that are more cutscene than video game like Alan Wake 2, which I absolutely hated, and I 100%ed that game hoping that it would get better, and it never did. Gaming these days is mostly just nonsense, pandering, and stupid shit that are causing players to walk away and go enjoy things like Japanese media more every day. The AAA gaming landscape is a hellhole, and there's far too many examples of games this year alone releasing busted, unfinished, or both. Yet all of these games with their varying levels of quality ultimately still require the player, the paying customer, to pay full price in order to experience them. And sure, we can sit here and sing Kumbaya and hug devs and kiss their foreheads for making these games that are so hard, but here's the thing. If your games are coming out running like shit, for example Jedi Survivor, which was borderline unplayable and released for many, or injects themselves with woke nonsense like Spider-Man, or just feels like a rehash of what a studio has made before but is worse like Starfield, and you also expect your players to pay you the amount you desire to play it, there's a problem here. Why are we paying these studios and developers the full amount for games that aren't the full experience, at launch anyway at least? This is why the game industry got pissed and salty when Baldur's Gate 3 came out, because they were mad saying, oh, this is a once-in-a-generation kind of game, but it isn't. The reality is that the game industry, especially the Western side of it, have collectively worked to ensure all games meet a certain bar of quality in order to be deemed purchasable. And the truth is that most games that get released are running like gravy shit. And don't forget when Bungie had their whole "don't over-deliver" speech. And we already know that the industry is one giant echo chamber already, because the entire industry ignored Hogwarts Legacy when it came to awards season because of J.K. Rowling's politics. Even though, in my opinion, Hogwarts Legacy shits all over pretty much most of the AAA releases this year in quality, polish, and breadth of content. And it sold more than any other game too. It even beat out Call of Duty this year, if you can believe it. But oops, the politics of the person whose work this game is based on makes our tummies hurt. And we all have to parry the same bullshit, so naturally, sorry Hogwarts Legacy, but no awards for you. Instead, we're gonna shower walking simulator cutscene messes like Alan Wake 2 with awards instead. Which, by the way, as of the making of this video, Alan Wake 2 is a commercial failure and hasn't recouped its costs even remotely. But it pushes the agenda and race swaps characters and aligns itself with woke PR firms. So it gets the pass when it comes to award seasons, and it's just so stupid, give me a break, dude. The absolute state of the modern gaming industry is cooked in almost every conceivable way. You can't expect players to pay full price when all you keep giving them is remixed, half-assed, barely working games most of the time at best. Stuff like Baldur's Gate 3 shits all over Starfield, Spider-Man, and pretty much everything else this year. I'm tired of this industry throwing whataboutisms and excuses down players' throats and trying to paint themselves as victims. And I'm sure going forward into 2024 we'll have even more busted games being released. But you can bet your sweet little butt cheeks, dear viewer, you'll be expected to meet these games with your wallets open and ready, even if the things you're paying for don't work 60% of the time at best. I would honestly prefer if the industry mostly just scaled themselves back. Stop making games the size of Australia and focus more on quality over quantity. You could fit 1,000 if not more Baldur's Gate's worlds into something like Avatar, but it doesn't mean Avatar is more impressive. Wow, you can fly for hours in between planets in Starfield as you stare at nothing. It's so immersive. I'd rather kill puppets in Lies of P and do cool shit with my Robo Sekiro arm instead. And Spider-Man 2 is like the epitome of disappointment for someone like me, because I loved the first game. I thought that version of Peter Parker in Insomniac's 2018 game to be the definitive modern version of the character. And they threw it in the trash in order to prop up Miles Morales for a third game where the main villains have absolutely no personal connection to Miles in any way. Oh boy, I can't wait to see how Green Goblin and Doc Ock feel when they fight Miles Morales of all people. The Spider-Man who has no connections in any way to either of them. I am just exploding with excitement, can't you tell? Bloody hell, dude, we're living in a time where you can't escape politics no matter where you look. And I believe, personally, that all of these games, whether they're Xbox exclusive, PlayStation only, or whatever the hell in between, who gives a shit, dude? I don't care what side of the gaming stupid jerking party aisle you're in. We're all getting collectively cucked by these studios and publishers anyway. This isn't a battle of Xbox versus PlayStation. This is a battle of the player and the monolithic ideological mammoth that is the modern games industry today. Every day we see new stupid shit emerging from this industry's ass, and whenever players reject it, these game journos immediately rush to their computers in their apartment that they share with 6 other game journos to white knight for these companies that don't care about them in the slightest, hoping that maybe if they pander hard enough to Xbox or PlayStation, they'll get sent a free beanie hat and a bookmark so that they can take a selfie with it and post it on Twitter saying, "Oh, thank you, modern gaming company. You see everybody, I'm one of the good ones." This entire industry is rotting from the inside out, and you're a moron if you think things are going to get better unless you call it out and talk about it. I already know places like IGN hate me anyway. After all, they discredited me back in August, and they put my name in the description, and then they just took it out a day later. Probably because someone at IGN read my name and went, "Oh, ENDYMIONtv, oh, my tummy hurts, oh, his politics, please remove it." or I'll start crying, and if you don't, I'll use one of my made-up personalities in my head that I came up with when I self-diagnosed myself on TikTok, and in order to deal with my crippling depression, I convinced myself I have multiple personalities instead of going to therapy. Just shut up. This industry is full of rot and needs to be purged. And instead of talking about the things that need to be changed, they'll instead put some lipstick on the pig and do stuff like bring out Timothy Shamalama Ding Dong on stage to announce Game of the Year, while refusing to acknowledge that their moronic decisions led to over 7,000 game developers getting laid off. Which, by the way, that's around 16 full Larian Studios worth of employees getting laid off this year alone in the games industry. But don't look at that, just consume the content, eat the sludge, and drink the gravy, dear viewer. You shouldn't expect more. What, Starfield didn't meet your expectations? Shut up, you don't even know how games are made anyway. What do you know about procedural generation? What, you don't want to play as a boring deaf girl in a game called Spider-Man 2? What are you, a bigot? Do you just hate deaf people? Tell me where you work so I can get you fired for not agreeing with my moronic opinions. Just eat the sludge, never over-deliver, push microtransactions, release broken games, and keep putting enough chicks in it and making it gay and lame until you hit your DEI quotas so the Game Awards doesn't blacklist you from the next year's Out of Touch awards show where only 18% of the entire ceremony is dedicated to awards. And the rest of it is a glorified commercial where Out of Touch celebrities announce new products and trailers. This entire industry is in need of a change, and if a gaming crash is coming, I say let it happen. Budgets are already insanely out of whack, stories keep getting worse for the most part, and half of the time these stupid games don't even work anyway. But don't worry guys, we know Starfield doesn't have land vehicles yet, just wait 2 more years. And then you'll have the game that we advertise to you to be available for purchase. This industry is a mess, and this might be one of my most cynical videos of the year. But by God, tell me if I'm wrong, because I wager many of you feel exactly the same as I do. Whether you're an Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Sega, Genesis, whatever the hell, fanboy, fangirl, they, them, z, zer, can we all agree that this shit stinks and needs to change? Because if the industry keeps going like this and the empty promises, unfinished games, and developers keep complaining and postmortems keep happening, I will become the Joker in 2024. And I know you just want to enjoy video games without being talked down to while having politics being shoved in your face 24/7. You just want your time, dedication, and money to be respected, and I understand. And that doesn't make you toxic or a bad person, that just means you have common sense in a world far removed from the concept these days. But anyway, I think I'm done for now. I'm hungry, I need to eat. Maybe this whole video is just a byproduct of the fact that I'm hungry, but whatever. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Thanks to my patrons as always for their undying support. Keep asking questions, never submit to their demands, and have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon. Have a good one.